of the Madison Plan Commission for October 7th, 2024 to order. First, we will start with some information from our technical facilitator, Jesse.
All right, welcome to our virtual Plan Commission meeting. We're going to cover a few basic items before beginning. If you lose connection at any point during the meeting, you can reconnect by clicking the link or calling the number in your original email. To members and city staff members, if you are able, please activate your video and keep it on for the duration of the meeting. Staff, if you are able, please activate your video when you are speaking. Use the raise hand feature when you'd like to be recognized to speak or ask questions. Staff, click raise hand when you are asked a question. The chair will do the best to call on committee members in the order in which the hands are raised. Lowering your hand will take you out of the queue. Members of the public who have registered to speak, the name you entered in Zoom must match the name you entered in registration. You will remain muted until called upon. The clerk will tell you when your time is up. After all registrants speak, a member of the body may ask you a question. If you need to share documentation with the commission, please send it to the email listed in today's agenda. Chair, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Jesse. Next, we have agenda item 1, General Plan Commission public comment. Megan, do we have anything to report?
No, Chair, we don't have anybody registered for that.
All right, thank you. Moving on to disclosures and recusals. Members of the Plan Commission should make any required disclosures or recusals under the city's ethics code. Do we have any disclosures or recusals? Seeing none, we will move on. We have the minutes of the September 23rd, 2024 meeting. Are there any additions or corrections to the minutes? Seeing no raised hands, is there a motion to approve? Moved by Alder Field. Do we have a second? Seconded by Alder Duncan. Is there any discussion on the motion? Seeing no raised hands, we will come to a vote, and I will assume unanimous consent unless I see a raised hand to object. Seeing no raised hands, the motion passes unanimously. Next up is the schedule of meetings. We have regular meetings on October 21st and November 4th and 18th. These will be virtual at 5:30 p.m. We have a special meeting on Thursday, November 7th at 5 p.m. in person at the Madison Municipal Building. All right, moving on to the consent agenda. It has been the custom of the Plan Commission to remove from the agenda those items on which staff believes an application has been sufficiently reviewed to support approval with all of the conditions placed upon it by the various city departments and in which the applicant accepts those conditions, and there's no individuals who have registered to speak in opposition to those items. Proposed for the consent agenda tonight, we have agenda items 2, 4, 5, 7, 8, 9, and 10. And for referral to the October 21st meeting, we have items 11 and 12. Are there any requests for separation? Seeing none, I will read these into the record. Agenda item 2, Legistar 85058, amending sections 28 of the MGO related to lakefront encroachments to codify lakefront yard policy and add detail. Agenda item 4, Legistar 84826, 3020 Winona Way, District 14, consideration of a conditional use to allow construction of an addition to a single-family residence on a lakefront parcel. Agenda item 5, Legistar 84828, 6910 Siebold Road, District 19, consideration of a conditional use in the Commercial Center District for dwelling units in a mixed-use building to allow construction of a 2-story mixed-use building with roughly 3,000 square feet of commercial space and 2 apartments. Agenda item 7, Legistar 84995, 702 West Olin Avenue, District 13, consideration of a conditional use in the TRC4 district for a total area of accessory buildings measured at ground floor that exceeds 1,000 square feet to allow construction of a detached garage with an ADU. Agenda item 8, Legistar 84996, 1902 South Stoughton Road, District 15, consideration of a conditional use in the CCT district for a single-family residence to allow a commercial building to be converted into a single-family residence. And agenda items 9 and 10 together, Legistar 84821, 2250 Ross Street, District 12, consideration of a demolition permit to demolish a single-family residence. Agenda item 10, Legistar 85057, creating section 28 of MGO to change the zoning of property located at 2248 to 2254 Ross Street from TRC 4 to PR Parks and Recreation, Alder District 12. And for referral, we have agenda item 11, Legistar 84607, creating section 28 of MGO to change the zoning of property located at 4303 Portage Road from temporary TRU1 to TRU1 District, Alder District 17. And also for referral, agenda item 12, Legistar 84010, 4303 Portage Road, Alder District 17, consideration of a conditional use in the proposed TRU1 district for a multifamily dwelling with greater than 60 units to allow construction of a 3-story, 65-unit apartment building. I will open the public hearing and close the public hearing, and we will move to a vote. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda? Moved by Commissioner Mendez, seconded by Alder Ugair. And I will assume unanimous consent unless I see a raised hand to object. Seeing no raised hands, the consent agenda passes unanimously. Okay, moving on to agenda item 3, Legistar 84827, 5048 Thorson Road, Town of Sun Prairie, consideration of a CSM within the city's extraterritorial jurisdiction to create 2 residential lots. This was referred from our last meeting. Tim, do you have a presentation on this one?
Just a brief report, Chair. The request before you is a request to divide a roughly 24-acre parcel located on the east side of Thorson Road in the town of Sun Prairie into 2 residential lots. Lot 1 of the proposed certified survey map is developed with the applicant, Gary Ziegler's single-family residence. And Mr. Ziegler is proposing to create a 7.7 acre lot from some undeveloped land at the southern or in the southern third of the 24-acre site that will be used for a future residence on the property. Some of the members of the Plan Commission may recall that a similar request was before the body earlier this year. And like with that request, staff feels that the project may not meet the criteria for extraterritorial land division, which are enumerated on page 1 of the staff report. The concerns are that generally when we're dividing land in the city's extraterritorial jurisdiction, the lots that are proposed are compatible with existing lot sizes and an existing development pattern. And secondarily, but of equal importance, that the proposed land division will not impact the city's ability to accomplish future annexations or extend urban services into the area of the proposed land division. In this case, we feel that the proposed new residential lot, Lot 2 of the CSM, does not reflect an existing development pattern. There is a series of smaller lots along the Thorson Road frontage on the east side of the road in the town of Sun Prairie, and then also elsewhere on Thorson Road on the west side of the road, which is actually in the town of Burke. But in this case, the location of the development lot is inconsistent with that development pattern. and staff feels that we should not be creating a development pattern here, rather following one that exists, which we don't feel the proposed lot will do. We're also concerned that the lot that is proposed is mostly landlocked, and that is inconsistent not only with the development pattern, but also with the standard that the proposed land division not impact the ability to accomplish future annexations or extension of urban services to this area. However, on that note, staff does acknowledge that the land, although right across Thorson Road from the site, is in the city right now, owing to an annexation that occurred over 20 years ago, that urban services will be a long time coming to this area, that urban development is unlikely to occur for the foreseeable future. So it is possible that, given the length of time that is likely to transpire between a land division to create the lots that are before you tonight, and when annexation and extension of services for urban development would occur, that it could be, long enough into the future that any impacts this land division would have would be pretty de minimis. So staff is not recommending approval of the land division, is happy to answer questions, and believe that the surveyor representing the property owner is present to address the Plan Commission tonight. So with that, I'll conclude my comments and be happy to answer questions after the hearing.
Thank you, Tim. With having that one registrant, I will open the public hearing. Megan, can you read a registrant into the record, please?
Yes, the registrant is Chris Casson, representing Gary Ziegler, registered in support and wishing to speak.
Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. Excuse me, I might cough a little bit. I'm still getting over a cold here. Yeah, thanks, Tim, for giving kind of the lowdown here. Yeah, Gary originally, in 2022 recorded a CSM that showed that lot 2 of CSM 15912 to the west to create that 1 acre piece, and the remainder was part of the certified survey map. Since then, Gary had some ideas of, south of the blacktop driveway, a little under half of the property there, that cuts that in the middle a little bit there. He wanted to parcel off this acreage. So we presented a CSM. Yeah, we presented a CSM that for that lot 2 that did not include the easement, the conservation easement to the right. There was some discussion about possibly including that in there. I talked to Gary about that, and he agreed to that. With the it's kind of a tricky piece of land, I guess. We are providing a 66 feet of access through there, and which I think in turn kind of allows for, the future. I know this is kind of a tricky area with, the future and where the development's going to go and things like that in the area. But I think this idea is kind of created a pinch point there with this easement. We've got the CSMs to the left there that are 1 acres. The lands to the south kind of cut this whole area off, and it's kind of a tricky little area. And I think by kind of incorporating the easement, kind of that area that's never going to be developed with the easement, and creating this access coming in of 66 feet, and we'll also kind of create, personally, I think, an area that potentially has the ability in the future to create some lots there. If somebody ever wanted to take a hold of this and really kind of make some more lots there in the future, I think this area kind of is open to that with that access coming in south of that driveway, but still leaves a big chunk, 16 or so acres to the north with that existing house. Kind of a unique little pinch point that it has created through there. So, I think, that's all I really have to say. And I think we've kind of accommodated pretty good of what's going on and with the given questions of the development of this area, I think we've kind of created something that might work and gives the possibility in the future to, redivide this and create some more lots, down the road. That's really all I have.
Thank you, Chris.
Yeah.
Is there any questions for Chris? See, we'll close the public hearing. Are there questions for Tim? Staff? Any questions for staff? Not for a motion? Looking for a motion or a question? Question. Alderman Garrett.
Based on staff's analysis and the comments we've just heard, I'm going to move that we disapprove the application.
We have a motion for disapproval. Is there a second? Seconded by Alder Field. Alder Ugar, would you like to speak to your motion?
I think as we look towards what's possible, and I'm concerned, as stated by staff, that this is a good time to avoid setting a precedent for the form of future development. I think it's in the city's best interest at this time, when it becomes appropriate, to consider what kind of development should be there, incorporating, trying to follow through on the nearby area plan that we look for as an intensive residential development as possible. And I think this is just an inappropriate time to try to judge what that might look like by approving this plat.
Thank you, Alder. Any further discussion on the motion? Seeing none, we will come to a vote, and I will assume unanimous consent unless I see a raised hand to object. Seeing no raised hands, the motion passes unanimously. Moving on to agenda item 6, Register 84994, approving the final plat of Starkweather plat on land generally addressed as 3450 to 3614 Milwaukee Street, Alder District 15. We'll have a brief presentation by Tim.
Yes, thank you, Chair, members of the Plan Commission. Item 6, the final plat of Starkweather plat, was originally on the consent agenda for approval. And just briefly, the request before you is the final plat of a subdivision that was before the Plan Commission on June 10th, creating 13 lots for future residential and mixed-use development on the north side of Milwaukee Street, generally from between Starkweather Creek and Walter Street. And the request before you is the final plat to create those lots, as well as 4 lots to be dedicated to the city, 1 for parkland and 3 for stormwater management, as well as 5 outlots that will be reserved for private use. Staff has reviewed the proposed final plat and finds it to be in substantial conformance with the approved preliminary plat, and is recommending approval subject to the comments and conditions contained in the staff report and in the addendum that was issued Friday afternoon. regarding the alignment of Chicago Avenue as it compares to the city's official map. And I'm happy to answer any questions after the public hearing. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. We do have registrants, so I will open the public hearing. Megan, can you read the registrants into the record?
The first registrant is Nicholas Davies in District 15 on Richard Street, registered neither support or in opposition, but wishing to speak.
Nicholas, you have 3 minutes.
Thanks. There's a lot that I appreciate about the plat, the current plans. I look forward to having future neighbors in the neighborhood, and I look forward to having better access to Starkweather Park. But my major concern with the plat is the connection across the creek to Fair Oaks. Fair Oaks and Milwaukee get a lot of traffic, and it's something that makes them kind of hostile to pedestrians and cyclists. And I'm concerned that a route connecting from Fair Oaks through this development and down to Milwaukee Street is going to act as a cut through, for people who are maybe trying to shave some seconds off and avoid the light at Fair Oaks and Milwaukee. And this is going to have direct impacts on how residents of this new neighborhood are going to be able to use their street. Are they going to be able to let their kids ride in the street? Are they going to be able to jog in the street if they're joggers? Are they going to be able to have a block party without having staff at the intersections to direct the traffic? So these are the kinds of questions that are before you. And, I think it would be detrimental to have a through route like that. And, I understand that the city would be in charge of making the bridge connection over to Fair Oaks. And that's not in any of the upcoming budgets currently. But, if we eliminated that constraint, I would be really curious about what Stonehouse could do without kind of that unnecessary constraint. Could we get more housing at this location? Could we get, more park amenities? What else would we be able to do if we weren't setting aside space for this street connection that might never happen? And, this area is also, we're starting the area plan process for it right now. So, if Eastmoreland neighborhood continues to show up in opposition to this street connection, like we've been doing, it might not be part of the comprehensive plan in another 6 months or so, given, depending on how that area plan, how long that takes. So, by the time that this plat gets built out, we might be looking back and saying, like, why did we set this space aside again? Like, it's just going to be a historical vestige at that point. So on the other hand, I do see a bike ped connection to this area being really useful. The city is right now building a bridge across another branch of Starkweather Creek on Hermina. And that's going to create a route where you can get from East Wash at Hawthorne Library all the way across to Fair Oaks at Chicago Ave without biting on Milwaukee Street, which is great for everybody. And it would be even better if you could then take a bike ped bridge over into this neighborhood, continue another 3 blocks or so, and then, Starkweather Park. One of the amenities that we add there could connect this part of Starkweather Park to the existing path up in the northwest corner of the park. And from there, the Northeast Area Plan shows a connection across 51 over to the Autumn Ridge Path. And so you end up with a contiguous route from East Wash and Hawthorne Library all the way over to Sycamore Park, if we put these pieces together right. So I do see some benefit in a bike ped connection, but I really think we should reconsider the street reservation. Thank you.
Thank you, Nicholas.
Okay, the rest of the registrants that I'm going to read are registered in support and available to answer questions. We have Jillian Hayes of District 6, representing Stonehouse Development. Helen Bradbury of District 6, also representing Stonehouse Development. Therese Hansen, District Unknown, representing the Kabula Washto Architects. Randy Kolinsky, representing Verbecker, and Joseph Krupp, apologies. Joseph is not representing anyone. Joseph Krupp, district unknown, lives in Middleton, registered in support and available to answer questions.
Thank you, Megan. Are there any questions for our registrants? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. Do we have any questions for staff? Commissioner Basine.
Yeah, I was curious. I'm sorry, I'm still learning, so please forgive me. I don't always know if I'm asking my question at the right spot. But in public comment, the comments about being able to connect how there could be potentially a change that could allow for more bike path infrastructure. Could somebody from staff speak to that, or did I misunderstand that? Because I'm looking at I'm seeing maybe a look that makes me think maybe I misunderstood it now.
Well, I will attempt to answer that, and I apologize if the answer is a little long and wordy. But where we are in the process tonight is when you subdivide land in Wisconsin, you have a preliminary plat step, which is the concept plan for how a piece of property will be divided into lots for development and outlots for things like stormwater management, public park land, things like that. It's also where the future streets that will serve that subdivision are basically given a conceptual green light. Are they consistent with the layout recommendations in an adopted area plan or neighborhood plan? Do they meet the technical requirements in the subdivision regulations? Things of that nature. And then the second step that actually literally puts stakes in the ground and creates lots for development that can be sold to third parties is the final plat. And the final plat is basically the big question for the Plan Commission is whether or not the final plat substantially conforms with the preliminary plat. And that's a statutory standard that we're required to find that any final plat is basically about 95% accurate with what the preliminary plat showed. So where we are is that last step. Back in June was when the Plan Commission was looking at the preliminary plat. And there's a lot of things that go into a preliminary plat review, including, like I mentioned, the consistency with adopted plans. In this case, the city went one step further. We did the Milwaukee Street Special Area Plan back in 2018, and we did a Darbo-Worthington neighborhood plan for the area west of Fair Oaks Avenue around 2015, 2016. And both, first the Darbo-Worthington plan and later the Milwaukee Street Special Area Plan called for a crossing of Starkweather Creek at approximately Chicago Avenue. And so when the Milwaukee Street Special Area Plan was approved in late 2018, there was, and I would submit still is in the Common Council, a real desire to begin implementing those plan recommendations as soon after adoption as possible. So the then Alder in District 15, Grant Foster, directed staff to prepare an official map reservation for Chicago Avenue that would show that we are going to make that connection in the future. And what official mapping is in a very brief minute is basically taking and putting on a map precisely where we're going to put a future street, highway, greenway, park, airport. Yes, statute says airport. And once it's on the official map, we can't give building permits for someone to build where we've reserved land for those public improvements. And if someone is going to come through later on and subdivide land that has official mapped reservations on it, then that subdivision has to dedicate the officially mapped reservation. So the preliminary plat showed the extension of Chicago Avenue across this site consistent with the official mapping. The official mapping happened in 2021, the preliminary plat a few months ago. So we're really at that final decision point that the final plat has to dedicate to the city the land that the city said it wanted dedicated when it officially mapped it. What gets put into that dedicated right-of-way has not been determined. The subdividers will be responsible for constructing practically all of the streets that you see on the final plat. The one exception is Chicago Avenue from Leon Street extended with the plat and Starkweather Creek. The city is not in a position to construct the crossing of Starkweather Creek right now. That's going to be a regulatory process unto itself, where we're going to have to come up with a design, get approvals from the Department of Natural Resources, possibly the Army Corps of Engineers. We're going to have to acquire land on the other side of the creek beyond the scope of this final plat. And a lot of decisions that are going to have to be made in subsequent years and subsequent to the approval of this final plat. And as the speaker alluded to, probably a few years down the line after we see development within the proposed Starkweather plat. So we don't know if it will be a full street, or if it is a street, how wide it'll be, or if it might only be a ped bike path. But those decisions will be made after the question that's before the Plan Commission tonight. The thing that the Plan Commission is asked to do tonight is say that the final plat's consistent with the preliminary plat consistent with the official map's consistent with the Milwaukee Street Special Area Plan, and the Milwaukee Street Special Area Plan followed on a recommendation in the Darbo-Worthington Neighborhood Plan. So that's how we get to where we are tonight. And if you have any follow-up questions, and you're welcome to, I'll answer those as best I can.
Thank you, Tim. Commissioner Bussing, do you have any further questions? No. In Alderfield, it looked like your question was answered to that. Great.
Correct. Thanks.
Any further questions for Tim? Seeing none, I'll look for a motion. Commissioner Sanders.
Sorry, I just muted myself. So I would like to move to recommend that the Plan Commission find that the final plat of the Starkweather plat is consistent with the approved preliminary plat, and recommend approval of it to the Common Council, subject to the conditions in the staff report.
And including the addendum to the staff report?
Yes, thank you. I was sure I was forgetting something.
Oh, no, you did great. And I'm slow on the unmute button. Seconded by Alderfield. Commissioner Sanders, would you like to speak to your motion?
Yes, thank you. So I appreciate the additional analysis provided by staff this evening. Really helpful. I think that the question that's before the Plan Commission is answered in this final plat. And it sounds like some of those concerns regarding Chicago Avenue are kind of baked in from some previous decisions by the city. So I think that the plat looks good, and I look forward to continued discussions about how this might get developed in the future.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any further discussion on the motion? Seeing none, I will assume unanimous consent unless I see a raised hand to object. Seeing no raised hands, the motion passes unanimously. Thank you all. Moving on to business by members. Do we have any business by members? The Secretary's report.
All right. Thank you, Chair. Just a couple brief items. At the last council meeting, the council approved both the rezoning and the preliminary and final plat for Huxley Yards, 905 Huxley Street, something that was previously on your agendas. Looking forward to tomorrow night's meeting, one of the items that is on the council's agenda agenda is the confirmation of new Plan Commission members. Looking forward to welcoming a new mayoral designee as well as a new alternate, and seeing some change in our alternates that are currently serving on the Plan Commission to continue their service. So at our next meeting on October 21st, we will have an election of the chair and vice chair as the first order of business on our agenda, and look forward to welcoming those new members. I mentioned a couple of the larger development projects that will also be anticipated on that agenda on October 21st. Wanted to just briefly call to your attention that also upcoming on your meeting on November 4th, we are anticipating several actions related to a development proposal located at 619 to 699 West Mifflin Street for an anticipated 239 unit apartment building. This is near the bike path along West Mifflin Street. I'll leave it at that for this evening.
Thank you, Megan. With that, I will look for a motion to adjourn. So moved by Alder Field and seconded by Commissioner Mendez. And I will assume unanimous consent unless I see a raised hand. Motion passes. Thank you all. Have a good evening.
Thank you.